Rick released a variety of poisonous snakes from an exhibit in the White Lotus Season 3, Episode 3, which begs the issue of why he felt the need to do so. Rick has so far been one of the most interesting characters in Season 3 of The White Lotus. At first, he was portrayed as an irate, naive, and unlikable man who didn't give a damn about anybody around him throughout his quest for vengeance. Although this is still mostly true, the conclusion of The White Lotus Season 3, Episode 2, saw him becoming closer to Chelsea while also disclosing more about the terrible past he had to undergo. This resulted in the third episode of Season 3 of The White Lotus. Rick had another wellness session that brought up his painful history once more, while Chelsea also grew closer to Chloe and Greg, who was back from the White Lotus. Prior to Rick's flight to Bangkok, he and Chelsea spent the day in a Thai village, which only strengthened Rick's search for Jim Hollinger of the White Lotus. Soon after Rick's story ended, hordes of poisonous snakes were released from their cages, leaving many people perplexed as to why. Although Rick's explanation for releasing the snakes in the White Lotus Season 3, Episode 3 is delivered directly from the horse's mouth, it is admittedly implausible, which raises another query. Rick claims that just before the Cobra display, he used some marijuana and became intoxicated, which is why he released the snakes. However, given that he claims to consume the substance frequently back in the United States, it is difficult to envision him being so impacted by it. Since Rick says his marijuana may have been laced with another narcotic in the show, this begs the question of whether it was actually laced. It's interesting to note, however, that Rick's weed was not confirmed to be laced in the White Lotus Season 3, Episode 3. Rick's suspicion might be right, considering the effects the medicines had on him. If not, the cannabis itself might have been stronger than Rick is accustomed to, or it might have just impacted him harder because he didn't use it while on vacation. In any case, it's obvious that Rick doesn't often react this way. Whether Rick released the snakes because of a terrible trip or because his cannabis was tainted, the act itself carried significance. Earlier in the program, Rick expresses his distaste for the snakes in cages and his lack of interest in their use as entertainment throughout the event. The plot arc as a whole is connected to Rick's statement that he merely believes the snakes should be free. For Rick, the third season of The White Lotus has been developing and will keep building. Rick feels confined when his character is explored further, whether it is through his tragic history or his thirst for vengeance. Chelsea is always concerned about his mental health and even encourages him to attend the wellness programs at the hotel of the same name. Rick can be viewed as being stuck in a number of ways, including his relationship with Chelsea, in which he shows little interest, the cycle of retaliation, and the stress, guilt, anxiety, and trauma of his past. Alternatively, Rick may be compared to a snagged cobra that is poised to attack Jim. The snake sequence in the White Lotus Season 3, Episode 3, may indirectly be related to the show's overall killer. The White Lotus Season 3 victim was alluded to in the premiere, and many people have since speculated as to who might have done it. Nothing is off the table, even if I will confess that the hypotheses have gotten really fanciful. The possibility of laced marijuana could be a sign that Rick or someone else will have a bad trip later and become irritable. The toxic seeds of the trees around the White Lotus, which have been hypothesized to be implicated in the murder of the show with the gun as a cover-up, can also be connected to tainted pharmaceuticals. In relation to the idea of animals going crazy after Rick released the snakes, the most absurd suggestion to date is that one of the several monkeys in the White Lotus Season 3 manages to obtain a pistol. In any case, the most chaotic scene in the White Lotus Season 3, Episode 3, nevertheless has a lot of thematic depth for the characters and the main enigma of the program. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more videos.